Hello, and welcome to the I-20 six-lane widening project virtual public meeting hosted by the Texas Department of Transportation Abilene District. TxDOT appreciates your interest and involvement in this proposed project. This is a pre-recorded presentation. We are early in a multi-year process to bring improvements to the I-20 corridor in Abilene. I would like to thank you for your time and attention today. Your input is critical to the project development process and to help shape TxDOT's decision-making. This presentation and accompanying materials are available online at TxDOT.gov as of September 22, 2020, and they are available for comment through October 7, 2020. Comments received during this period will be included, along with TxDOT's responses, in the comment response matrix for the meeting summary. The meeting summary is typically posted to TxDOT.gov several months after a public meeting is held. You will be provided information at the close of this presentation on how to provide comments. Today's presentation includes an introduction of the project, our identified concerns and characteristics of the I-20 corridor, information on how you can submit your comments, and our planned next steps. Given the unique circumstances of the COVID-19 pandemic, along with TxDOT's commitment to protecting public health, TxDOT is conducting this virtual public meeting online to slow the spread of COVID-19. This online format is being conducted in lieu of an in-person public meeting. The presentation will cover the same information that we would have shared at an in-person public meeting. However, the comment process for this virtual public meeting will be somewhat different from what we normally conduct in an in-person meeting and will be explained at the end of the presentation. Thank you for helping us slow the spread of COVID-19 by engaging with us online. All project information, including this presentation, can be found on the TxDOT website. Visit TxDOT.gov and keyword search I-20 six-lane widening project or type in the link as noted on the screen. The webpage includes virtual meeting instructions, this pre-recorded presentation, project information, environmental constraints maps, the process for submitting comments, and project team contact information. This virtual public meeting was developed to provide project information for the public, stakeholders, and elected officials, and to request your input. Outreach methods to inform the community about this meeting included a letter of invitation to elected officials, a notice on TxDOT.gov, postcards sent to adjacent property owners and stakeholders, email invitations sent to stakeholders on our mailing list, display advertisements published in the Abilene Reporter News, and a news release sent to local media. If you are interested in receiving future project notices, please let us know. We encourage you to join our mailing list. Methods to contact us and sign up for updates will be shown at the end of this presentation. Currently, TxDOT has local, state, and federal dollars allocated for a portion of the proposed project. We anticipate identifying further funding as we continue through the project development process. With any project receiving federal funds, TxDOT is required to evaluate the potential environmental consequences of the proposed project. The environmental review process that we follow is in accordance with the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969, otherwise known as NEPA. The NEPA process results in documentation that is provided to decision makers so that they have all the data needed to make an informed decision if the project should proceed. In December 2014, TxDOT received a signed Memorandum of Understanding from the Federal Highway Administration that allows TxDOT to assume responsibility from the Federal Highway Administration to review and approve certain assigned NEPA projects. In December 2019, this memorandum was renewed. The review and approval process applies to this project in Abilene. In short, TxDOT will follow all state and federal laws to identify and review potential solutions for long-term safety and mobility problems on the I-20 corridor in Abilene. On November 12, 2019, TxDOT held an open house regarding the I-20 corridor. This meeting was to introduce a proposed project on I-20 between SH 351 and Abilene to near Buck Creek Road, just outside the city limits in Callahan County. We would like to thank the 81 members of the public who attended. One of the major comments received was a request to extend the study limits further west. Thank you for your input. TxDOT has decided to advance additional segments of the I-20 corridor into our current study. We are now studying I-20 from the western city limits of Abilene, approximately where I-20 meets Business 20, to near Buck Creek Road. This spans approximately 16 miles of interstate and is located in both Taylor and Callahan counties. We will be identifying long-term safety and mobility solutions for the I-20 corridor. We plan to widen I-20 to 3 lanes in each direction and implement potential improvements to ramps and frontage roads. Now, elements that we must study include traffic data and travel times, safety information such as crash data, environmental constraints and issues, engineering considerations, right-of-way or the width of land that TxDOT may need for improvements, and public involvement. The process to identify, review, approve, and implement long-term safety and mobility solutions for the I-20 corridor takes several steps and will last several years. First, we plan. TxDOT will prepare an environmental study and a preliminary roadway design known as a schematic. We are at the beginning of this study, and we anticipate approval to potentially move to the next step in 2022. I say potentially because funding will need to be identified for the next 2 steps. The current approved funding for this project is $40 million, which will only fund a portion of the proposed project. As such, if the project is approved, it is likely to be split into several phased projects that will then individually move into the next steps of design and construction. In design, TxDOT will advance the schematic design into a final design ready for construction. Additional activity occurs, such as right-of-way acquisition and utility adjustments. This effort can take approximately 2 years. Finally, construction. Construction can take up to 3 years for completion. So this is not the last time that you will hear from us. As the project progresses through development and implementation, TxDOT will continue to engage the public and request input as the project is further defined. We have currently identified the following project goals and objectives: improving safety, improving mobility, enhancing accessibility, improving emergency response times, supporting economic development, and minimizing impacts to the community and the natural environment. These are important elements to keep in mind when providing your comments and recommendations for improvements to the corridor. I'd like to now talk about the problem we are trying to solve. The items here were identified by data collected by our project team and from prior public input. Data shows that traffic volumes have increased on I-20. This increased traffic of both local traffic and heavy truck traffic on a major interstate has impacted the safety and mobility of the traveling public. As an aging roadway, I-20 is in need of upgrades, like ramp configurations, which will improve the speed discrepancies between the ramps and the main lanes. It's also critical to improve emergency response times as well. If no changes are made to the corridor, problems are projected to worsen in the future due to continued development and increased traffic. Let's review some of the data that prompted the proposed project on I-20 and problems that we are trying to address. The I-20 main lanes have an average of 30,000 cars and trucks per day. In comparison, on the I-20 frontage roads within the center of town, we see an average of 16,000 cars and trucks per day. In the outskirts of town, both to the west and to the east, We see significantly less traffic on the I-20 frontage roads. The average number of cars and trucks per day is 1,400. 35% of the total traffic on I-20 is commercial trucks, such as an 18-wheeler truck. This information is from 2018, and we will continue to update the data as we study the corridor. There are several topics where we would appreciate your input to shape improvements on I-20. This is the first one. Do you have a concern about traffic or congestion on I-20? Please let us know in your comments. Next is to consider the crash data identified by our team to date. On the I-20 corridor through Abilene, we see approximately 30% more crashes than statewide averages. In the center of our study area, between US 83 and SH 351, the data shows that the number of crashes is more than double the statewide average. Without improvements, numbers are expected to increase. Again, this data is from 2018, which we will update as we progress through the study. Be sure to let us know if you have a concern about safety on I-20. One of the elements that the project team must identify and study is environmental constraints on or adjacent to the I-20 corridor. Constraints are identified as areas that we need to avoid in building roadway improvements if possible. Those constraints include oil and gas wells, creeks and streams, floodplain, historic sites, cemeteries, and parks. On the virtual public meeting webpage, you can view the environmental constraints maps that we have prepared. These maps show an aerial photo of I-20, and constraints are identified by colored shading and icons. A legend is provided in the bottom left-hand corner to help you review the map. There are 6 different maps to look at, as this is a very long corridor. The constraints and features were obtained through use of federal, state, and local resources, including review of aerial photography and agency databases and maps. On the screen, you can see a snapshot of one of the maps. To orient yourself, you are seeing I-20 go from west to east, and FM 600 or Westlake Road going from north to south. The arrow on your screen is pointing now to a stream and a floodplain that crosses I-20. The stream is the dark blue line and the floodplain is the hatched teal area. The next example constraint on your screen is an example of an oil and gas well location. These 2 types of icons that look like suns indicate the location of an oil and gas well as identified by the Railroad Commission of Texas, who regulates the oil and gas industry. Environmental constraints must be identified and considered as we aim to avoid them or to minimize any potential impact should roadway improvements be constructed. It is critical that we identify all potential constraints. We welcome you to review our constraint maps online and let us know if something is missing, such as an unidentified cemetery. Next are considerations for existing and future areas of economic development. It is important that we identify these areas and avoid them or minimize any potential impact. An example of such an area is the boardwalk at Allen Ridge. This is a development under construction at I-20 and Ambler Avenue near the Abilene Christian University campus. Please let us know if there is an economic development area that we should know about. We held an open house on November 12, 2019 about the I-20 corridor. However, it had a shorter project length. Comments that we received helped identify the problems we are trying to address and prompted the acceleration of the western portions of the project to be included in the current I-20 study. We appreciate these comments and look forward to addressing them as part of this broader study where feasible. TxDOT is committed to continuing our efforts to gain public feedback about this project, especially now that we are studying a longer corridor. We'd like to know what's missing from our maps and initial data collection. What do we need to know more about? Here are some of the items we'd like to hear more about from you. your mobility concerns, travel and delay times, your safety concerns, environmental constraints, and future development. Also, please inform us of any other comment you may have about this proposed I-20 project, or if you would like to join our mailing list. We understand that this virtual public meeting format is a bit different, so let's take a few minutes and explain the comment process. The first step to commenting is to review the meeting materials. Please visit the virtual public meeting webpage by going to www.TxDOT.gov, keyword search I-20 6-lane widening project, or visit the precise web address as listed on the screen. At the web page, if you scroll down towards the bottom of the page, you will see a list of materials next to the bolded topic, Downloads. Please download and review the materials at your convenience. If you have any questions or if you need technical assistance, please contact the project team at area code 512-342-3281. And please know that you can contact TxDOT and the project team at any time during the project development process to ask questions about the project. The second step is to comment. Given our current COVID-19 situation, TxDOT is asking the public to provide their comments in the following ways. You may complete our online survey, which is located at the web address listed on the screen. You can also access it from the virtual public meeting webpage. You can email us at ih20project@gmail.com. And you can send us your comments via the mail by addressing Mr. Scott Darrow, our TxDOT project manager at the TxDOT Abilene District, 4250 North Clack Street in the city of Abilene, Texas, 79601. All comments must be received by October 7th, 2020 at midnight. If you are mailing a comment, please be sure that it is postmarked by October 7th to be included in the record. Please note that comments can be made throughout the comment period, and you can send us more than one comment and via any of the methods mentioned. Your input helps us better understand community concerns and values. Comments are not a vote, but what you provide helps inform the decision making. The official comment period is September 22nd through October 7th, 2020. Any comments received during the official comment period, as well as TxDOT's responses, will be included in the comment response matrix for the virtual public meeting summary. The meeting summary is typically posted to TxDOT.gov several months after a public meeting is held. Again, you are always welcome at any time during the project development process to contact us with questions. You may reach Mr. Darrow at the TxDOT Abilene District by calling area code 325-676-6818. From here, TxDOT will take the prior input received and any additional input submitted during the official comment period into account. The project team will collect and analyze additional data and then develop potential solutions. We will be back to the public in 2021 to encourage and request additional input. TxDOT is committed to developing this project in collaboration with the community in a way that meets the mobility and safety goals while minimizing community impacts. We appreciate your time today and encourage you to participate and to stay engaged. We wish you good health. Thank you. This concludes our presentation.